Callum, I wanted to start off and ask you, I mean, when you're playing, like obviously you played John Borman before, so you've played like real life characters. I'm wondering when you are playing real life characters, the fact that you have, I don't want to say that to fall back on, but you definitely do have the level of research that you wouldn't necessarily have from a fictional character. Is that easier or is that harder?
Uh, in terms of building the world, it's a lot easier. But what it does is it restricts you in a way and guides you into a space. You know what I like to do is I like to find the energy. So as much information as possible energetically and then go to that space. Does that make sense? So I don't want to imitate anyone. I just want to find the essence of the person and then play. I don't really like to speak to any family members. I don't like to because someone like Joe's granddaughter would have only known him as an older man. And I played John Egan in Masters of the Air, and his granddaughter would have only known him as a 5-year-old girl, So there'd be stories, and they wouldn't really know who they were. They'd have an idea of who he was, and it might dilute my idea of who they are.
It's also trickier, you have a real responsibility to these guys because there are real families involved. And so you have to be careful how I remember we did Good Night, Good Luck. We were, every one of these guys were journalists who wrote about the events. So there was like no messing around. And we screened it for all of these guys and they all loved it. These journalists, they were old men now, except for one guy, Don Hewitt, who started 60 Minutes. He's a huge journalist. And he goes, "It's a terrible movie." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "It's terrible." I go, "Why?" And he goes, "None of us ever went to that bar." Literally, that's his whole judgment was we got the wrong bar.
To be fair, I'm a journalist as well. Those details matter, especially when it comes to a bar. The details matter.
Well, in fairness, we actually had the right bar. We talked to all the other guys. They said, we went to the bar. We just didn't invite him.
I love that. George, this is, I think, your second film that you've directed and not starred in. I was watching Confessions of a Dangerous Mind earlier in the week. And I remember, in the special features, you talked about the fact that, when you're starring in a film and directing it, you give yourself maybe 2 takes because you don't want to seem like you're being egotistical. Yeah. I'm wondering now that this is your second film directing it. How many takes did you make Callum do to get a scene right?
So we didn't mess around. No, honestly, if these guys are prepared, listen, there's times when you got to do 10 takes. If you don't get it, it happens. You're not going to move on till you get it. But I'd say average, we do 2 takes with you.
I guess in terms of the preparation, we were ready.
They were ready.
And George also brought the parameters in, so there was a space to play within. So if I remember a couple of times I asked, "Can I get another one?" He was like, "You going to do it any better?"
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to try.
Well, if somebody asked for another take, of course. But, in general, the guys that taught me how to direct, Coen Brothers, Soderbergh, Alexander Payne, they show up, they're prepared, they shoot what they need, they edit kind of in camera so that you shoot with a point of view. And then if it doesn't work, you blew it,
He taught me a lot about acting with that, in terms of I always joke that the director always picks the simple one anyway. What do you mean? The more straightforward one.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of I want to try this or I want to try that. It's actually about just centering the story and
sometimes. Well, I'll tell you why. There's an interesting thing. Probably you don't give a damn about this, but I'll tell you.
Please.
Because what happens is that actors see their role and they don't see the bigger picture. And so, when I would do ER, I would be on the show playing a pediatrician, and every show I'd have a kid that dies, and we'd have a different director every week come in and go, "I think this would really, choke you up." And you go, "Yeah, I cried last week. I can't cry at every." So, there is this thing of the overall is hard to see, So there's an advantage to some of that being the director.
But the fact that you were an actor-director as well, you can obviously see both sides of the problem that Callum might have in terms of if Callum's just zeroing in on character and you're thinking, right, well, he's one part of it. Do you then find you have to remind him, no, pay attention. There's more to this than just...
No, I didn't have to remind him much because he's a smart enough actor to know most of the time. Yeah. Sometimes I would say, don't be, this is not the place for that because you're going to do that in 2 more scenes. And we might shoot that in 3 months, So there's some of that. But honestly, they all, Callum's a smart actor. He knows what he's doing. And so there were very few times I had to say anything to him about how to do it or how to play.
I'd say after about a week or two, we had a nice rhythm going.
Yeah, good shorthand. I could literally look over the camera and he'd just go, let me do it.
Go again.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about, like period details and stuff like that, because you mentioned obviously Good Night and Good Luck. And Callum, I know you were in like Ripper Street here in Dublin and Emma. I mean, is there anything beyond, I suppose, like, costumes being kind of itchy, I guess? Is there anything kind of specific or different about starring in a period film?
Absolutely. I mean, the boats, I'd love to talk about the boats. The boats that we were rowing were authentic, and you guys built that for us. Yeah.
I mean, so think about it different. They're training with Olympic rowers who've never rowed in wooden boats with wooden oars. And they're like, come on, you can do it. And it's like, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder.
It's a lot heavier. We started off in a modern boat for about maybe a week, and then the period boats came in, and they couldn't handle them as well as the modern boats.
They're tricky. But
the whole film is, it's a throwback to a 1930s, 1940s picture and everything. All of the detail. We were talking about the kiss yesterday. Even the kiss is
the kiss differently.
Yeah.
We shot this, that real kind of like pressed up.
Yeah, you got to smash your face because it's not like your tongue going.
We did 2 months of rowing training and 2 months of kissing training in preparation for this.
Look, it's actors, like you were on strike. I mean, it's a tough gig. You're not going to do it. Final question for you, for both of you. If you were to program this next to another film, what film do you think you would program it next to in a cinema?
Oh, you mean like a double feature?
Double feature, yeah.
Yeah, you got a good double sports feature. I have sports films that I love. Like there's a film called Pride of the Yankees. There's a film like Hoosiers.
Yeah,
that I love. Basketball isn't quite as big here, but boy, it's a great sports film. Yeah. Chariots of Fire is kind of a good sports film to pair it next to, because they're kind of a similar kind of genre.
I'll go Rocky.
Yeah, good one. Did you watch, actually, speaking of, like you said, Pride of the Yankees there, I mean, did you watch any of those kind of like 30s and 40s sports movies? Like, what was that one with Ronald Reagan, like The Gipper or whatever it was called? Yeah. Like, did you watch any of those when you were doing
that one
this?
Actually doesn't hold up quite as well. No. Some of them, it's interesting. There's some films like Pride of the Yankees it's a Gary Cooper film, and that's why it's about Lou Gehrig. And there's really fascinating film stuff. Like Lou Gehrig was a famous left-hander, and Gary Cooper's right-handed. And you can't just turn around and suddenly be a great left-handed, first baseman. Mm. And so they shot it all, put all the numbers on backwards, and then flipped the film and shot the whole movie in the baseball film, shooting back. So you hit the ball and run to third base instead of first. I love all that stuff. Stuff is fun.
Yeah, like Hoosiers as well. I mean, I've seen that. It's a great film. Like Gene Hackman. That was the one with Gene Hackman, wasn't it?
Gene Hackman, yeah. And what's his name? Won the Oscar for it. I'll take his name in a second. But Dennis Hopper won the Oscar.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, final question. I'm wondering, I mean, just for the both of you, I mean, obviously, Boys in the Boat, it obviously has a little bit of kind of Oscar sheen around it. I mean, it's, period drama and all the rest of it, story of kind of like uplifting heroes and all the rest of it. I mean, was there one particular kind of scene in it that you thought, that's going to end up in the fucking Oscars? That's going to be the one that's the one people are going to be talking about.
You don't make movies that way, or I don't. We make them. This was always going to be, we thought this is a Christmas release film, not because of the Oscar timing. We thought it's a Christmas release film because that's when the most families could go get together and see it. And we wanted to make a film that was fun for people to go see and enjoy. And, times have become worse and worse and worse in the world. And you guys have certainly had your experiences recently there as well. And, so it feels like something where everybody needs to be around something nice for a minute, so.
Yeah.
Inspiring. You missed the part where I told him not to tip over.
And I won't.
Roll for your country. Roll for each other.
For all the people who never believed in you. As one.